from the hotel room for the Mike Rosehart show. Um, yeah, hopefully the Wi-Fi is okay. I could rejoin. There's a local network I could rejoin. It's probably a bit faster, but I figure this will be fine. If we're having issues with the Wi-Fi here at the hotel, let me know. I'll rejoin. But yeah, it's been a busy day. I haven't put in a physical manual labor day like I've had today in a long time. And so calluses on the hands, I'm sure, are going to start developing. I pulled out like 1,200 square feet of flooring today, ripped it out to get it ready. Um, and I met a lot of contractors. I lined up like 10 different contractors to come through our Florida property. The Florida project closed, and so we're working on getting that to a state where it can be thrown up on Airbnb and start generating some great cash flow. We're, uh, we bought it for 329,000. It's a like almost 3,000 square foot, 5 bedroom, 2-story house with a nice in-ground pool and a decent area. We could probably rent it for on Airbnb between $5,000 and $10,000 a month. It's 5,000 in the low season worst case, and then 10,000 a month probably during the high season months. So beautiful 2% rule type property. Multiple double-digit returns. We're going to be able to potentially refi all of our money out, so we'll have nothing in the deal. So yeah, my focus right now, just while I'm here, is to develop relationships. So interview and try out and meet as many contractors as I can, develop those core relationships with the right people so we can begin to scale and grow. So this first project is more about building infrastructure, and honestly, it would be nice to have a nice poster project of success in this market as well. Um, we've done some other flips and stuff in Lake City and more near Georgetown, and we did one in Orlando, but this is the first time in West Palm Beach, Port St. Lucie, Stewart area, and I really like this area. It's growing like mad, and I think in the next 5-10 years, this area will just pop off. So I'm extremely bullish about this area on the east coast of Florida, and I'll be spending the rest of my winter here. So excited about that. Happy New Year, Alan. Good to see you on. Yeah, I forgot it's New Year. So last I was on, we were still in 2022, and we were talking about the year in review and how horrible of a year it was for some people, for everyone's stock portfolio, crypto portfolio, real estate portfolio, probably for your business too, because inflation's running wild while interest rates are at all-time highs, your mortgage, your car payment, everything's up. And 2023 is continuing that same saga of pain. We're looking at more rate hikes and potentially more pain. But what that means is, or what I think it means, is that we're going to have a turning point soon. People are starting to feel the effects. They're starting to feel the pain. Businesses are slowing down, construction's slowing down, real estate's slowing down. The market is in pain. And so we may have another 10% of fall still yet. It could get worse. There are some worst case scenarios where it's 20, 30% lower than it is now. It's a worst case scenario. But I think that by the end of this year, we'll start to rally to a point where, we haven't seen this level of rally in a good decade. Like we haven't seen, well, that's not true. I guess 2008 was the last one. 2020, there was technically a V-shaped, like the world's going to end, and then, no, actually it's going to be fine. So I guess we'll have one of those, but more drawn out. In my opinion, it'd be more like a drop, and then sort of coming back slowly. We might have cycles too, where like rate hike, more inflation, stimulate, sort of a cycle of that, up and down, where they try to land the plane between a rock and a hard place. So hopefully they don't hit the rock or the hard place. Yeah, so that's what's been up. Happy New Year. Equities and crypto cheap now. Yeah, definitely 100%. KR says Happy New Year, pal. Happy New Year, Kenny. Yeah, it's good to be down somewhere warm. I've got to say, it's even though I was like sweating like a pig today, pulling up carpets, I'm like, all to save $600, but I want to put some sweat equity in just for, it had less to do with like me trying to save $600, which, like, of course I'm trying to save me and my partner $600. Like, obviously I'll save wherever I can, but it was more that I had contractors lined up all day throughout the day, and so it would be more of a pain to go back and forth, and I'm not just going to sit there and twiddle my thumbs. So I might as well be working in between interviews. So I'm interviewing, Airbnb managers down here. I'm interviewing designers down here just to get like feedback and things like that. A lot of contractors I'm bringing in subcontractors. So I'm bringing in guys that just do floor because I can get it a lot cheaper than say if I went to Home Depot and paid Home Depot to install it, it'd be really expensive. Or if I, went to a, into a really expensive company who does painting, again, they're going to mark it up. I go direct to the source. I look for a mom and pop. I look for a guy and his helper who literally do flooring. And there's no salesman. There's no guy going around doing quotes. It's like they're going to do the work. I get to meet them, get to see their work. And then I compare. I brought around 4 people. So it's a lot of work, by the way, to find 4 painters, 4 flooring guys. You got to message them. You got to get referrals. You got to check their work. You got to meet them on site. You end up talking to them for 45 minutes. It's about 8 hours of work just to procure the quotes, to be the general contractor or the GM of the job. So that's the role that I'm kind of starting with for now. I'll get to a point where I can say, here's the Locksbox code. I've used this people a couple of times. Go check it out. Let me know your price. I'll use you. But until I get to that point, I have to develop those relationships. It's like I'm, in a lot of ways, building new lists out in new infrastructure with the same systems and things that I use in Canada, but different because it's a different environment. So that's what I'm up to these days. Stock-wise, just getting wiped out as always. I stopped shorting. Stupidly stopped shorting in December. And so I'm long the market now. I've continued to dabble and bite in a little bit here and there. I'm still sitting on some cash. I'm going to deploy all that cash soon just because I don't want inflation to eat the cash away. So I'll continue to buy the dips. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where prices are, at quite a bit lower than they were even 2-3 months ago. We're starting to see certain companies, well, it was interesting actually today though, Tesla rallied. We had a little bit of a green day. I saw Tesla rally 12%. I wasn't really tracking it till after hours. Like I came home to the hotel and I checked out my stuff and caught it up. I personally love what Tesla is doing for, like someone just asked, would you buy Tesla at 80? I don't know, maybe. It depends. I think that it's interesting to see how this trend shapes up for Tesla. I don't like that Elon is focused on Twitter and some of his other ventures. I would love to see, Como says Meta will probably end in the 200s this year. Very likely. I'm very long Meta. I love Meta. But Tesla, not as much. The growth rates that they have to hit over the next 5 years to hit their targets are really, really aggressive. And though they've been successful with that in the past, I saw an interesting survey recently that something like 50% of Tesla owners are very likely to change vehicles, change vehicle brands, sorry. And that's much higher than other car manufacturers. And that's because in the EV space, everyone else is catching up. As I said a year ago, when everyone else catches up and Tesla has to compete on price, are they a better manufacturer? Can they deliver at a lower cost base? What happens if, Mercedes comes in with their EV vehicles? There are now EV vehicles that have better range than the Tesla. They drive further. They drive faster. Their luxury is better because the cars aren't made all that well. The internal components, in a Tesla are meh. You can get a lot better vehicles on the market right now. Some of the luxury brands have now caught up and made better electric cars. So they have a lot of challenges ahead of them, but they're in so many different spaces that I think their autonomous driving, no one's even close. So they do have some competitive advantages and some moats, but you're paying a big premium for that. At all-time highs, it was like an insane PE ratio where you're paying an insane price to earnings. So I don't know. I'm a value guy. Like when I buy a house, the thing I like about real estate when I'm trying, or any business, when I'm trying to value it, is like, how long will it take me in a worst case scenario to get my money back? And how much probability of loss is there? So I don't know. I do think that when I buy a house that's say 300 grand, I'm like, hey, to rebuild this house, it's 400. If I can buy it for 300, that's 25% discount. I'm insulated. I'm protected. I can get into that deal and feel really good about that. In the stock world right now, a lot of stuff's still overvalued, even though we've seen a lot of drop in value, except maybe Intel and Meta. I think Meta has a lot of growth potential they're not tapping into, and they're a cash flow machine. Again, they have 50% of the entire world's eyeballs on them on a weekly basis, meaning that like half of the world, like 3.5 billion people, use a Meta product. So they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on WhatsApp, they're communicating, and it's their primary means of communication. Like I've said this multiple times, but like if there are people I know that I can't even message them outside of Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger, specifically like Messenger on Facebook and Instagram, where that's the only means that we have to communicate. We don't actually have each other's cell. And so it's like If they control communication, that's, to me, that's huge. There's huge value there. And they're not monetizing that in the way that they could. But yeah. Bum, 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 bum. Would you buy Tesla 80? So I guess to sum up that question, Eli, and circle back to it, that's a big drop from where they are now. That's another, what, like 25% drop? Maybe a little bit. I think there are a lot of people who are super bullish on what Tesla can do in some of the other spaces with their robotics technology, their AI. I like their autonomous driving trucks. They have an amazing infrastructure network. There's a lot of good things about Tesla. I just like to see the valuation crush, and it is crushed. If we get another 25% drop, that would be like an 80% drop from all-time highs. Yeah, I'd be interested in probably buying a little bit of that. And that wouldn't be my whole portfolio, maybe 1-2% of my portfolio. But yeah, like same with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is also something that, like, and cryptocurrency in general, I think should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% of your portfolio. I think it's part of a good growth balanced portfolio. That is your growth piece. That is the future. And I want to support decentralized finance, and I want to support where the blockchain technology is taking us, and I'm in that with my dollars. So again, I'm not like a, all in on growth stocks. I'm not all in on crypto, but I think it's part of a balanced portfolio to have some of those asset classes. So a little bit's okay. And I think a little bit's good and healthy. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, spread them around. It's why in real estate, I like to be able to buy multiple properties, spread it around multiple units. I don't want to have it all in one sector. Real estate is an exception though. I will say just in general for me, because I could have 100% of my net worth in real estate and sleep at night and be completely comfortable. Whereas like 100% of my net worth in stocks, I'm up at night, like worried about the volatility. My net worth in stocks means I have 6-figure fluctuations on a daily basis if I'm all in the stock market. And that gives me stress. Like there are days where I had $200,000-$300,000 drops in my net worth. It's like to lose $250,000 in one day, that's just market fluctuations on my stock portfolio. And it's a lot. Whereas with real estate, I'm not checking the price every day, right? My property's out there, it's cash flowing. I know that it's worth what I own it for. It probably has some upside because I bought it cheap. So it's like I know I have equity in there. I'm comfortable. It's like I can own that property. The chance of losing my money is very, very low. I've got quality buildings that produce cash flow. That makes me feel good. It's like long-term buy and hold real estate is the place you want to be parking money. Again, because you can achieve that double-digit return with very little risk. So for me, real estate is still bar none the best asset class. Maybe it's because I had that competitive advantage. Like I know people message me and say, hey, like I can't find any properties for a good deal. I don't know how to look. And it's like, okay, well, maybe you don't have the 10,000 hours yet. And so because you don't have that competitive advantage, I could see how just being in a stock portfolio passively would make sense. There's also the effort element, like how I spend a day today interviewing contractors and building logistics out. If you haven't done that before, like in my home market, I could take on a flip and it's like nothing because I already have the people. It's just so easy. In a new market, I feel like a noob. I feel like, hey, I don't know 10 contractors. I don't have 10 electricians and 10 flooring guys. And I don't have all these guys that I can call on my phone. And so I can see how someone just starting out in real estate, finding my channel, being like, Mike, this is a daunting task to do a flip or to, build out a real estate portfolio. And it's like, yes, it is a bit of effort, but the payoff is huge. Like, where can you take your money and double it? If you put 20% down on the property and you can increase the value by 20%, that's your entire down payment doubled, right? If you bought a property for 500 grand, you put 100 grand down and you increase the value by 100 grand from 500 to 600, that 100 grand jump just took your 100,000 in equity and made it worth 200. You got 100% return on investment in 1 year. And in some cases, we can take a $500,000 property and turn it into 750, in which case make 250 grand. And on 100 grand, that's 2.5 times your money. Where can I get 2.5 times my money with very little downside risk? Like the worst case scenario is I bought this property for 500, it's worth 600, the market crashes and it's worth 450, and I lose like 30, 40 grand. I hold it for 4 or 5 years, I win. I cash flow it the entire time. By the end of the 5 years, I've pulled all my money out. There's no money in the deal. We've got a mortgage on it, and through cash flow, I pull the money out. Even if the property drops in value, no big deal. But with stocks, it's like, the price falls and it's like, there's no cash flow coming in to recoup my investment. A 2% dividend yield means I'm holding it for like 45 years to get my money back. The only way is to sell it to someone else for more. And if the market's in the shitter like it is right now with high interest rates and inflation running wild, and we're about to go into one of the worst, I think, years we're going to have in a while. It could be a good year in the second half, though. I will say that. It's possible we have quite a rally towards the end. Coming out of recessions, we have insane, You can get months where there's 10, 20% growth. So at the same time, you don't want to miss out on that. Like this is probably one of those opportunities where it makes sense to be in the stock market and be deployed. But um, yeah, it's hard. For me, it's hard to want to be in stocks where I have no competitive advantage and I'm at the mercy of the market versus in real estate where I'm in control. I can sell the property for 110 cents on the dollar. There is someone out there who will pay me, if I make it nice enough, who will pay me more than market value for the property. And I can buy the property for under market value. So again, just a great opportunity, I think, overall. Bom, bom, bom. Happy New Year, Shaylin. Good to see you on. Thank you for all the kind comments, everyone. The question was, how would you approach an employer about relocating to the U.S.? You already have a permanent work from home position, want to move to a tax haven to lower expenses, love my job, so I'd like to keep it. Yeah, that's a tough one. There's some great blogs out there that when I was looking to leave my job and I orchestrated a layoff, that I read, and one of them was Financial Samurai has a great bunch of content, or used to. I don't know if it's probably still out there. That's great to read about that. He talks about the golden parachute and how to set that up. But yeah, I think just approaching it from that perspective, like I've always found that sympathy is the best way to go about it when you're dealing with an employer situation. Go to your employer and, maybe you've got to move for health reasons. Maybe you got to move for family reasons. Find a good reason you have to move and say, look, I love this job. I would do anything to keep working here. Or maybe say nothing and just move there. And how will they know, right? Keep being paid in Canadian. I'm sure there's a way around it. You know what I mean? Like, do you come clean to them? Do you not? Probably come clean to them. If you do, build a good story around it about why you have to do it. Because if you just say, hey, I just want to do it for fun, for tax reasons, I don't know how that'll fly. It depends on your manager, I guess. Wish I had a good, easy answer for you. But David says, the random weekly fact, did you know you can get a lease-breaking doctor's note in Nova Scotia and Quebec, i.e. stress? Just read it in a CBC article. David, cool. In general, tenants can pretty much always break leases. So leases are useless in Canada. Pretty much, like, tenant can just piece the landlord can't do anything really. Tenant gives notice and leaves for whatever reason, and most of the reasons fly. The boards are on the tenant's side. So if a tenant breaks a lease, you got to replace them. It sucks, but such is life. Next question was, Tesla has infrastructure that no one wants to invest. It's true, they do. If anything, I think Tesla could license that infrastructure and generate some revenue. Does it justify the valuation? More so now, as the valuation continues to fall, but less so before. Shaylin says, I own a Tesla Model 3 Performance and Tesla stock. Don't think I'd ever purchase another brand again. It's like Apple, but for cars. Very strong walled garden, FSD, and charging infrastructure. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, it's a mixed bag, right? There's like the camp of people who just love their Teslas. There's a pool of people who are like, meh, don't love it, have the Tesla but don't love it. And it's actually a growing number of people. And then there's the camp of people who are like, meh, in the middle. So it's interesting to see if those people who are, saying that they're open to a new brand, if they flip. And if they do flip, what does that mean for Tesla? David said, seen in your stories this week, alabaster paint color. Is it a go-to for a fixed flip? I'm looking to repaint and looking for recommendations. Like the common, like alabaster white is a common off-white brand that a lot of people use. Your agreeable grays, your, what's the other gray one that we always use? Owl gray, your Benjamin Moore owl gray is a common one too. I see a lot of people use your warm, your modern grays, your whites, your modern whites, your gray whites, your light grays. All of that's very common. And for flips, you want to pick neutral colors. I don't like white because it gets dinged up and damaged easily and shows the dirt. However, on this specific house, it's very dark in the back of the house. And so I need something to brighten it up. So I might go alabaster white only because I need that pop that we aren't getting right now with the current colors. There's just not a lot of light. So I'm probably gonna use that color out. I think that stick to the type in like the 10 most popular colors, look from there. That's the way to go. Like there's a reason that they're the most popular, that every designer is recommending them. Go on trend with what everyone else is doing. I think that often has the highest ROI, is just staying neutral and picking what everyone's picking. How much real estate do you own? Not as much as I used to. I'm pretty heavy into stocks and crypto, more than half my net worth now, I think, is in non-real estate, which is a problem. I want to rebalance back into real estate, so I'll be going hard. You'll see me going hard in real estate in the next 2 years. I think as real estate corrects down, I don't think there's no big uptrend coming for real estate. We're like flat or down are the most likely 2023, 2024 scenarios. So I just sold a lot of my properties. I sold two more today, actually. We successfully sold two more properties today. I've got, what do I have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. We have 9 properties left that I could dispose of that are mostly are like transitory flips of one rental. And again, I'm going to sell that one too because I just cycle through. Like when I stabilize real estate, I find that once it's stabilized, it's really hard to want to keep it unless it's like an Airbnb type property, which can generate crazy returns. All this long-term rental stuff, you're dealing with like bummy tenants that trash the places after 3, 4, 5 years. Even if you have great tenants, you end up with a situation where like your cap rate at market, like if you could sell the property tomorrow, it's like a 6 cap. And so if it's worth a 6 cap, it's like, why am I holding it? I can go buy another 12 cap right over here. And so for me, I get shiny object syndrome, and not even just the shiny object thing. It's like justifiably, I can take the property, sell it, and buy 2 more that produce twice the return. And so I continually want to rebalance the portfolio because I continue to see better opportunities. And the best opportunities are the ones that need stabilizing. So I get in there and I stabilize them through renovation, through tenant repositioning, all of that. You change the value of the portfolio. And then once it's realized, you might want to sell that for a high valuation and buy another one. It's got a really great valuation. You can restabilize it. But yeah, I think that in general, real estate is a safe place to park capital. I like it. I like lending too. It's very passive and easy. Real estate ownership isn't as passive or easy. There is a lot of bullshit you deal with, a lot of calls. You're talking with your property managers and all of that stuff. So, yes and no. Yeah. Ash says, I have a contract offer in the US, but I'm based in Canada. How should I collect income as an individual or as a business? Talk to your accountant. Talk to your accountant. Should I base the company in Bahamas or British Virgin Islands? Maybe. That could be an option too, potentially. The problem is if your employer is in the US, there's probably going to be withholding tax in the US. I don't know how that kind of works out. Talk to a offshore specialist who can help you. Maybe there's a company in the US and you have a company in the Bahamas and you invoice, your US company collects the income, and then you're an independent contractor for that said company, or you license IP from this parent company in Bahamas or whatever, and then you just bleed money back there tax-free. That's a really great strategy I've heard of, but I'm not an expert on. So are any creative legal ways to reduce tax burdens? Yeah, I mean, you can, like I said, you can move to the Bahamas. So as an example, that's a great tax strategy. You could live there 90 days a year. You become a tax resident in the Bahamas. You stay out of the US and Canada for 6 months. So you can be up to just under 6 months in each of them. So if you spend more than that, they'll consider you living there. So stay out of Canada, like be in Canada 4 months, be in, the US 5 months, and be in, the Bahamas a little over 3 months. Boom, there's 12 months a year. You only spent 3 months a year in the Bahamas, and you get that tax residency bonus. So I think, it's tough, but I think optimizing for tax can make a lot of sense. For some people, it doesn't. Does it improve your lifestyle in any way, or enough, I guess, to justify the changes? For some people, they love the paradise and don't mind being by the beach, and it can make sense. For me, it's like Bahamas and Florida are beautiful, and I want to be relocating, spending majority of my time here. However, Canada's summer cottage season is some of the best. It's some of the best times, some of the best weather, some of the cleanest water, fresh water. It's just beautiful. And plus, like Bahamas and Florida has hurricane season. Who wants to be around for hurricane season? So I'm gonna get out of Dodge for those 4 months, no matter what. But yeah, I think being here in the winter is fantastic. It's beautiful out right now. And at home, it's cold and gross, and there's not a lot of sun. So yeah, for me, it's an easy one, if I had to choose. Hello, Eric. How you doing? Rudacris says, are you looking to invest in real estate in Canada? Occasionally, like if the right deal falls in my lap. Am I heavily pursuing acquisitions there? No. Flips fall on my lap. I partner up with people. I'm the passive partner in most cases, and I have an active partners. I have mentees and friends. My brother also running some flips and construction stuff. So I outsource a lot of it. It's like a friends and family business. I acquire the deals. So there's three things to a deal, right? There's the money, the management, like the active stuff, the expertise, the network, the infrastructure, and then there's the deal itself. And if done properly, the deal is the most valuable by far. Like whoever has the golden ticket of the deal's like 70 cents on the dollar, you hold all the cards. You're bringing more to the table than the money. If they bring all the money, you're still bringing more to the table. If they brought 25% down of the down payment and you brought a deal that's worth 30% of the market value, you're bringing more to that deal than they are. Money's easy to find. So that's where people, have a disconnect sometimes, but that's where I see the maximum amount of value. So that's where I focus. And then there's the management piece. You need to have that. Typically, when you're raising the money, you need to be the infrastructure, the management, the people, and you have to be the deal. Typically, some guys these days are giving, if they're finding the financing, someone else is bringing 30% down, and they're getting a third of the deal. So that's a very common structure right now, where the money gets a third of the deal, and the active partner and the active acquisitions guy are getting 2/3 of the deal. That's a very common structure I see down in the JV world, the joint venture world. It really depends, but yeah. So to circle back, I am doing deals in Canada. I will continue to do deals in Canada. I have an active corporation that is my active flip corp. That's what we do. I do private lending as well. I like to wholesale occasionally when deals fall in my lap, but I'm focused right now on building out infrastructure in Florida. I like the cap rates better here. I like the growth prospects better here. I like the political environment better here. I like the landlording environment better here. I can raise rents from 2,000 to 4,000 in 2 months. Boom, give notice, it's done. They don't pay 4,000, they get the fuck out. In Canada, you have no power, no rights. Tenants have all the power. So I don't know. I like the Florida environment better. It's a lot like Alberta. In Alberta, you can do the same sort of thing. It's the only province I know of in Canada where you have some power as a landlord. And so I want to invest if I'm going to invest in Canada, I'd like to invest in Alberta. I don't have the infrastructure out there, but I'll likely be investing in Alberta as well. Ontario's tough. Short-term rentals and flips make a lot of sense in Ontario, but long-term buy and holds in Ontario, I won't be long-term buy and holding in Ontario. I just have no interest in that. I'll have like maybe a cottage or two that fit the lifestyle brand and business, and they can generate good cash flow on Airbnb, but no long-term tenants, no long-term buy and holds. I'm just not in Ontario. I would do it in Florida in a heartbeat. I would do it in Alberta. There are places I would do it, specifically Florida. I'm very interested in building a portfolio here. I'd like to get, 20, 30 properties in the next, in my goals vision board, I've got 18 months to do 36 properties. So I want to get to a point where I'm doing 2 a month. And so that's what I'm going to work towards. Whether I get there or not, it's not the end of the world either way. These are just goals I set for myself. And I always set audacious, ambitious goals. And so it depends on what I want to sacrifice to get there. And my 3 kids are super important to me. So it depends. It depends is the answer. When buying a house, should you always make an unconditional cash offer to entice the seller to sell for as low as possible? I typically go with that strategy. I've employed that strategy for years, but sometimes conditional makes sense. It depends. It definitely, if you find a seller who's had 2 offers fall through and they're frustrated, a cash offer is juicy and you can offer a great price. So it can be a great strategy on the buy side. Ash says, if you had to choose between the UK or Canada, where would you stay? I've never been to the UK. I've done some research on it, talked to some people who live there. They have some cool tax laws when you first move there for foreign income. If you're working elsewhere abroad and you go move to the UK, there's some cool tax rules that are better than Canada for sure. But I know Canada, I understand Canada. So if I had to choose between the two, for me, it's Canada. Because again, I have a working knowledge of the tax code. I have a deep infrastructure in Canada. Canada for me will always be where I was born, where I was raised. It's home, even if I live home somewhere else, it'll still always feel so familiar to me. So familiarity is comfort. And so for that reason, I think that if I had to choose between the two, I would choose Canada over the UK. And also the UK doesn't get very warm. The UK doesn't really interest me that much as a place to move to, but I could see how people would see value there. I know people that do. Next question was, as a Canadian in Canada, can I buy multi-units if I don't have cash down in today's markets? Well, yeah, you got to put money down, or you got to find a partner who has money to put down. No bank's going to lend you 0 down. The only 0 down deals you're going to be doing are with other people's money. That's it, OPM. And OPM comes with risk. Ash says, is it worth buying a condo in downtown Toronto, looking for a place for myself to live, but also as an investment? Ash, it depends really. I think if you're gonna buy a condo in downtown Toronto that's just a single family, just rent. You'll be further ahead. Rent and buy into some REITs and get some exposure to real estate with the rest of the excess money you would have spent on buying. However, if you're going to buy a house in Toronto and then rent out part of that house so you can live for free, that's called house hacking, then buy. And then you get the equity, get the lift, and you're living for free. That's a win. The rent to buy ratios don't make a lot of sense unless you're, out in the suburbs. Maybe it could make sense, but for the most part, it's cheaper to rent than to own. Especially with rates where they are now, it's way cheaper to rent than to own. So you probably should just do rent hacking, which is like go rent a place that's bigger than you need and get a roommate, or go rent a place that's bigger than you need and rent out a portion of it, and then subsidize your rent, and then your rent's very low, and invest the difference in other asset classes. But yes, in general, in a bull market especially, buying property will give you an appreciation lift that should offset any of the additional costs as rates continue. Once they fall, then that would be very much true. Less so now with rates being so high. Mortgage payments are 2.5 times. Bum, bum, bum. Harriet says, Mike, what's your process for finding so many good deals on MLS? Is it just a numbers game of making lowball offers? Most of my deals are not found on MLS, Harriet. I find a lot of stuff off market, pocket listings, that kind of stuff. But if you're on MLS, know what you're looking for. Like I can go on MLS and look at I literally can look at every house in the market in probably 8 hours. I can get through the entire MLS. And that's just a matter of I set a notification up. Once I know every deal in the market, that's where I start. I look at every single listing and I click through it. I look at the pictures, look at the description. I get to know every house in the market. That's where I start. In most markets, it's a couple hundred properties. In a bigger market like Toronto, you might be a couple days to get familiar with every single thing on the market. And then you set up a notification for new listings only. And then every day you just go on at the end of the day for 30 minutes and you see what the new listings are. And you can literally know every single house in the market. And that's how you build market dominance and market expertise. And you'll notice when there's outliers. Like, hey, this property here is really cheap. Why is it so cheap? You can jump in there and you can buy it quick. Maybe they underpriced it. They had a bad agent who didn't understand how to price the property. That happens on MLS. And I snipe up those deals quick. They go quick. You got to act fast. No conditions, cash. Boom, in there, out, done. That's how you can score deals in MLS. The other way is a house that's gone contingent, where they had an offer and it fell through. No one's looking at it anymore because it's been 4 weeks contingent. Everyone who called, the agent said, hey, there's an offer on it. So everyone forgot about it. Still on MLS, but everyone forgot about it. So you're not competing. And now that buyer is fatigued. They've been dragged through the mud through conditions of financing and home inspection. You can go in there and negotiate and offer, 20% off. And that's how you can find deals. Like we just picked up a triplex, my cousin and I in London here, for $360,000. And it's like, that's a great value in a good area of London. That property is worth probably $550, $600. We got almost 50% off. I had to put some money into it to fix it up, but that was an MLS deal. We were able to negotiate off the asking price. And so that's a huge win, where we can get in there and get some deals. So, yeah. What kind of legal status do I need to live in the US as a Canadian if I'm doing real estate investing in the US? Well, there's a few ways to do it. So off the bat, you have 6 months. You can be 6 months a year as a Canadian in the US, 6 months less a day, and you're fine. So if your plan is just to spend 5.5 months a year in Canada or in the US and the rest in Canada, you don't have to do anything. Your Canadian passport gets you the right to be just under 6 months a year. So if you don't have half your time in Canada, half in the US, you're fine. You don't need to do anything. If you want to be in the US all the time, then you need to get an E2 or an E5 visa. The E2 is a nice way to get in as well. The E5 is a more expensive foreign investor program where you invest a certain amount of capital. The E2 is like you can buy a small business. There's also, you get a job here. There's lots of ways. You can talk to an immigration lawyer and they can help you out. I'm not an expert in it. I've looked into it, had a consultation to understand a little bit, but it seems to me the easiest way is for me to buy like a motel or a small property business. Like a motel counts as a business. You can buy a motel for like $1.5 million or something, finance most of it, put 400 grand down. And that business now employs cleaners, it employs people. It's doing $1.5 million hotels, probably doing $300,000-$400,000 a year. So it's an active business. You can use that, submit a business plan. Boom, you get a green card. Not a green card, but basically a residency card to reside in the U.S. and start paying tax in the U.S. and all of that. So it's pretty easy if you're wealthy to be in the U.S. Like it's a no-brainer. If you're rich, the U.S. wants you. If you have some capital, the U.S. wants you. If you're poor, it's a bit more of a challenge to immigrate, but I just love the weather down here. I love, everything about the opportunity and the capitalism that exists down here. It's just like everything that I can do in Canada, I can do better in the US. It's just a bigger, better market. So, yeah. How do you estimate ARV? If you were in a new city, what resources would you use to estimate potential rents? Again, looking at comparables. That's how you do it. You got to look at what things have sold for in the area, compare out properties to other sold properties, equalize your property to those properties, make the adjustments, then you get the value. For rents, the exact same thing. Find what's rented, find the listings, see what things are renting for, go on your marketplace, your Craigslist, go on your, talk to realtors, find out what things are renting for, and adjust to yours. And you get a pretty good idea. By having a few conversations, you can find out what market rents are. When approaching the BRRRR strategy, what are successful factors to be able to generate 20% ROI consistently and try to pull out at least 70 to 80% of the money out of a deal, not using market appreciation? This is the big thing, right? Like most people don't know how to BRRRR without market appreciation. Try a declining market where prices are falling while you're trying to BRRRR. That's where we are right now. We're in expert mode, and so it's very difficult to BRRRR. Even I may have some deals where I'm holding a little bit of cash in the deal and can't get it all out just because the market has fallen, where it was a perfect BRRRR, but the market falls. And so your BRRRR is your insulation against markets falling. And so you don't lose any money. Instead of losing money like you should because the market's fallen, you actually still make money, just less, if you do it properly. So I would say, how do you do it? Buy smart. It's all in the buy. But the second most important thing beyond it all being in the buy is the cost control. So finding affordable trades. As an example, I'll have 3 flooring guys come in and do a quote, and one will come in at 40% higher than the next guy. The next guy come in 20% difference. And so you got to pick the right contractor to work with. And maybe you can work with them. Like I pull up the floors myself, save $500-700. But that's a bad example. I'm just saying, like, you could literally just bring in 3 quotes, competing them against each other, and the most affordable, best quality contractor, in some cases doing that yourself and hiring the painter yourself, hiring the flooring guy yourself, hiring the electrician or the handyman yourself. If you do all that, you can save, in some cases, 30-40% of the whole rental budget can be dropped just by shopping around. You bring in one general contractor who charges you $50,000 to fix the house. I can do that same renovation for $35,000 by managing it myself. So I'm saving, 15 over 50 is, that's like almost 30%, right? Difference in cost. So that's a huge difference by leaning in a little bit and spending a little bit of time. And the extra time is like getting a couple extra quotes. Most people are lazy. They go with the first quote they get because it's too much work to go with a bunch of other quotes. But spending the time and getting those quotes, that's how you meet more people, you find better contractors, you build a bigger network, and you get your costs way down. So definitely do that. Those are the 2 things that are most important. Buy smart, renovate smart. Be strategic in what you do. Do you do any private equity? 3 out of the 10 companies I invested into got acquired after 2 years investment. Como Global, I don't do any private equity. I would love to get into that space. I just don't have the connections right now. It's something I'm interested in. We bought a business through a business broker a couple of years ago, a medical device business, and I got taken out of the business, and I more than doubled my money in a very short amount of time. I got like triple-digit ROI. So it was a great experience. I like buying and selling businesses. It's hard to find businesses that make a lot of sense to do that with. It's getting easier now, but you got to really know what to look for and how to analyze the business and how to go in and transform that business to then make it more saleable or more refinanceable to the bank to then pull your capital out. But it's an active business. So yeah, I mean, I'm open to those opportunities, but you've got to know where to look. Beatrix says, what do you think about investing in the S&P 500 right now? Also, different topic. Any thoughts and predictions on the BC real estate market in terms of future projections? Well, Beatrix, just in general, the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 are down significantly. So there's nothing wrong with dollar cost averaging in a little bit now. I think buying this dip is good. It probably will dip more this year. I hate to say it, but there's a very good, like on a coin toss probability, it's like probably 60%, I would say, that we're going to have further downside before we have a recovery. But we will eventually have a recovery. Prices in the S&P 500 in the next 5 years will be higher than they are now. Fact, 100%. You cannot lose money over a 10-year period investing in the S&P 500. It just doesn't happen. It won't happen. Over a long enough period of time, you will win, and you'll win big. Does it perform as well as, say, real estate? If you were just buying the market in real estate, then I would say yes. I don't buy the market, right? Sorry, I just need a drink of water here. I'm thirsty. I buy under market, right? Same thing you can do in the venture capital world, where you can get into companies on the ground floor, they're really good discounts, and then they go and sell in the public market for more. So, Como Global says Seed Invest was the broker. So far, so good. The highest ROI out of the 10 most likely was Miso Robotics company putting robotic fry cook string makers. Cool. Yeah, you have to someone send me an email offline about that. I'd love to look more deeply into that. It's rosehartcapital@gmail.com. Send me an email. I'd love to be in those rooms and have those conversations just for the fun of it. Rudacris says, any thoughts on Bitcoin right now? I still have some Bitcoin. It's painful to think about. In general, I would say that I'm still bullish on Bitcoin in a 5 and 10 year period. I still am bullish on cryptocurrencies in general. I think Bitcoin potentially has more to fall as the Fed fucks around. And the more they fuck around, the more we're going to find out. To quote the viral meme. I just think that there's a good probability that we see a further price drop. But in the next 2 years, I think we'll see Bitcoin at 100,000 a token. So that's Canadian. So I think that there's significant price appreciation possible. Again, I could be wrong. I'm not betting the farm on it. Am I going to have a few Bitcoins? Yeah, of course. Probably into this year, I will buy a few more Bitcoin. Just hold them. It's not a big percentage of my portfolio. Whatever happens, happens. Yes, I'm bullish on it. Am I bullish enough to bet the farm? No. Chuck says, advice for someone trying to buy their first rental in Toronto, don't have enough to buy cash with no conditions. Well, when you buy cash, no conditions, what you're doing, Chuck, is you're just agreeing that you're going to figure out financing. You can still use private financing, B lenders, A lenders, whatever. You're just not going to have a clause to back out. So when you put a cash offer, you don't actually have to have the cash. You just have to agree that you're going to close on it no matter what, which means you might have to go to a B lender at 10% interest temporarily till you stabilize the asset and then go and refinance it. So that's what I mean when I say a cash offer. I don't really mean cash. I mean no financing contingency to back away from the deal. They know that you're serious when you put an offer. You're going to close on it. You're going to find a way to close on it, whether you have to go private financing. Whatever you have to do to close on it, you're going to do it. And so, yeah, just it's better for the buyer. They're more likely to take your offer for sure at a lower price. Roman says, new construction, multiplex, 30 doors at 95% LTV of CMHC. Is that a good strategy versus, say, adding value via BRRRR to a 12-plex? It depends. Every deal is different. I don't love new construction simply because you're paying top market dollar for that. However, builders are going bust right now. There are deals to be had in the new construction space potentially. I typically like to buy the stuff that needs the most work, and new build stuff doesn't have as much lift potential to it. So there's not as much of a way for you to make a bunch of money. But again, you bring the point up with CMHC right now, rates are cheaper than if you went at market. Like CMHC is helping discount rates significantly right now still. I think like you can get some commercial deals right now where it's like, 4.5% interest still. So that's, 4%, 4.5%. It can be attractive still using CMHC in Canada, where you can put 5% down. So those are some interesting larger. It's only for large multifamily projects, big lot of doors. I would say I'm just more comfortable with the BRRRR. I know it's more work, but I put the work in, and I guarantee to get the result that I'm looking for. But I can see the value in both. Being 5% down is very interesting if you believe prices will continue to grow in the next couple of years. So it depends. Next question was, what interest rates should we be prepared to carry for? I would run things at 8%. I think at least in Canada. In the U.S. probably 10%. I think it's possible. Harriet says, what would your strategy be if you were to buy in Toronto? What would you be looking for? I wouldn't be buying in Toronto. If I'm going to buy in Toronto, it's going to be because it's my primary residence. I'm going to be house hacking it or something, and I had to live in Toronto, and I had to invest there. Then I would go for like something in the suburbs that's good value that I could rent out for, have lots of bedrooms or whatever, maybe a duplex or something, multi-unit for sure. And then as far as the second part of that question here, what would you look for? I think, again, it just comes back to cash flow. So buying something that helps offset that I can live for cheaper than I could rent it for. It's very difficult in this market. With rates being where they are, say a $2 million house in Toronto is going to cost you like $10,000 a month in rent. We can earn total cost of ownership if you bought it, but you could rent that same house for like $6,000 a month, $5,000 a month, and invest the difference. So it's really hard to want to own in a market like Toronto. As prices fall, it's getting more and more interesting. I would flip in Toronto. Like, there's no doubt about it, I would flip. I don't know if I want a long-term hold because the cap rates are so bad. Unless I had really cheap financing or something that subsidized my my holding of the property, like something with CMHC, maybe I could see the arguments. Pixie Green says, family member and I sold our Toronto condo due to different paths in life, looking to buy a condo for myself. The equity is still waiting for prices to decrease. What do you think? I think prices will continue to fall. It doesn't mean I still wouldn't do deals, but it means I'm very careful about the deals that I'm doing because prices are falling and the Fed is staying hawkish and rates are still rising and there's still more pain. There's still a lot of inflation. Rates are rising. There'll be maximum pain when inflation's still high and rates are just starting to pivot downward. That's when the most pain will be felt. Those comps are selling within 30, 60, 90 days. And when those comparables hit the market, they justify lower prices. And so that'll be the bottom, I think. And it could take in real estate a year and a half before we hit this bottom after the market pivots. So, or after the Fed pivots and the market pivots. Prapa says, how are you producing income right now? Well, primarily I'm doing it through flipping. So it's event-based income. So as an example, we sold 2 properties today that closed. Both projects are going to net us a couple $100,000. So like I get large flows of income, then it comes out, then a large flow of income, then it comes down. I also have a dividend portfolio, which doesn't generate a lot, maybe 10 grand a month or something. That I guess I could live just on the dividend portfolio, technically. I also have, a house hack situation going on. It's a couple of rental properties, generates a little bit. I have private lending. I have a huge private lending portfolio, which generates. There's risk in the private lending space right now. One of my mortgages is in default, and I'm pursuing it. So the challenge there is I haven't made it. They stopped making payments 4 months ago, so I'm making no cash flow. But in theory, if all of my I guess I will be able to foreclose on the house and I'll get paid back when I sell the house and I'm in first mortgage position. So I'll get everything from the sale and most of my interest, hopefully. But I'm not getting the cash flow from it because I'm their default. But between all my private loan stuff, in theory, if everyone was paying, I'm making 70 grand a month on that as well. So yeah, ish in that range. Floats between 40 to 70, I would say, 1,000 a month. Private lending is my favorite. It's not the best way to build wealth, but it grows. The cash flow is nice. There's no lift, so like the market doesn't appreciate your mortgage stays the same, but you're getting a cash flow every month. So, Alan says, "What's the best time in the offer process to pitch VDB to a seller, realtor?" Oh, am I back? I just clicked off the screen. I think I'm back. I just clicked off the screen. A notification came up, said daughter's bedtime. And I was like, go away. And when I clicked on it and it opened up a whole thing my wife sends me for my daughter's photo album. I'm like, and it closed the app. So sorry about that. That was this stupid finger clicked the wrong thing on the YouTube screen. Curse you notifications. The last question was, what's the best time in the offer process to pitch a VTB to a seller realtor? So I think it's better to go in with an offer first that is at, I think one strategy, it depends on the seller. So you got to feel out the seller, talk to the realtor, find out what kind of person they are. But I think it's smart to go in with a really low price, a price that they're not going to agree to, what we call a lowball offer. And then they're like, no, I'm up here. And you're like, all along you want seller financing and they're going to go for it. And so you go from your super low price up to a price that's close to what they want. And you give them a whole bunch of price, but then you slide in seller financing. And they're like, oh yeah, he's giving me the price that I want, like perfect. And he came up to my price. But then you slide in like a 3% vendor financing where they give you the whole mortgage. And that's where it can be really attractive. So that's probably one of the strategies I've used to slide in seller financing. But it depends. Like you could just lead with it right off the bat. It depends. Yeah, I'm through all the questions. Sweet. All right, it's been a great 50 minutes, guys. I appreciate everyone for coming in here. Sorry the hotel Wi-Fi has been crap. Hoping I'll be able to do a live stream from the project that we're working on right now. Once I have internet there, it won't even be next week because internet companies suck here. It takes weeks to get it set up. So I'll probably be at a hotel again next week. But yeah, I'll try to have faster internet for you at the next one. I'll try to like go to a business center or something. Sorry if it's been laggy. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Hit the thumbs up button. Remember, the secret to unlocking a wealthier you is to spend less, earn more, and maximize returns in the difference. See you guys next week.